This is Poland Daily News. My name is Aleksander Wierzejski. Welcome. In the fourth day of the Russian aggression on Ukraine, Moscow troops failed to achieve any of the goals. Ukraine is still defiant. Reportedly, in Belarusian town of Homel, the Ukrainian delegation is to meet with the Russians to talk about the truce. Meanwhile, Anton Herashchenko from the Ukrainian Interior Ministry revealed that Russia fired Iskander missile from the Belarusian territory to Ukraine. The rocket hit the city of Zhytomyr. The losses are yet to be determined.
Ukraine's president accuses Kremlin of genocide. One example of the crime is the shelling of a passenger car in which a family was traveling. As a result of the attack, the parents and girl were killed. 2 children are injured. They are fighting against all living beings, against kindergartens, apartment buildings, against ambulances. They use rocket, artillery, missiles and city districts where there are no military facilities and never have been. The Ukrainian side has filed a lawsuit against Russia at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. We demand that Russia be held accountable for manipulating the concept of genocide to justify aggression. We ask the court to immediately order Russia to cease hostilities and set a hearing next week. President Vladimir Putin has threatened the entire Western world with the use of nuclear weapons in response to sanctions. As you can see, Western countries are not only taking unfriendly steps toward our country in economic terms, I mean illegal sanctions, of which everyone is well aware, but also top officials of leading NATO countries are allowing themselves to make aggressive statements towards our country. There are reports of mutiny in the Russian military. In Belgorod, near the border with Ukraine, 5,000 soldiers have mutinied against the attack to the west. As the official reason they gave, there is no provision for fighting in Ukraine in their contract. In contrast, yesterday, from the territory of Belarus, Ukraine was attacked by Chechen troops. Their assault was stopped. A column of Russian special forces smashed near Hostomel. They were Kadyrovtsi, named after the head of the Chechen Republic, Ramzan Kadyrov. According to Channel 24 sources, the Ukrainian military blew up 56 tanks, including General Magomed Tushayev, who was killed. Hackers from around the world affiliated the group Anonymous launched a cyber attack on Russia yesterday. Kremlin websites were blocked and valuable information was stolen. In addition, the region's television was taken over and Ukrainian songs and an appeal to pray for peace were broadcast.
The previous invasions of Georgia and Crimea are starting to come into focus and show a clear strategy for Russia to recapture key areas that were once held by the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union failed many years ago and the world has not forgotten the brutality of that regime. The people of the world will resist you every step of the way. This is not a war that you can win regardless of how powerful you think you are. We are anonymous. We are legion. Expect us.
Today, after heavy fighting in the Ukrainian side defended Kharkiv, the latest figures show that the Russians lost 4,300 soldiers, 146 tanks, 27 planes and 26 helicopters. Ukraine blew up the railroad leading to Russia and President Volodymyr Zelensky announced the formation of a legion composed of various nationalities.
Ukrainians terrified of Russian attacks are fleeing to a safe place, Poland. The country is defended by the Polish army as well as several thousand allied NATO troops. The number of refugees who have crossed the Polish border since Thursday already exceed 200,000. They are provided with food and drinks by Polish volunteers and state emergency services. Prime Minister Chief of Staff Michał Dworczyk said that at least 2 trains will be shipped daily to Ukraine with humanitarian aid, and each province launched a reception point for refugees.
Several kilometers long lines have formed at Poland-Ukraine border crossing points, as there are tens of thousands of people who want to leave Ukraine. Prime Minister's Office Chief of Staff Michał Dworczyk, who yesterday personally delivered humanitarian aid to Ukraine, reporting on huge mass of people who want to get to Poland. He said that the difficult situation was mainly the result of procedures at the Ukrainian side of the border. We agreed with our Ukrainian partners that the Polish Government Strategic Reserves Agency would provide assistance. The provincial governments will provide addresses of reception point for refugees today. Organizations that want to help Ukraine can apply there. A logistic hub will be created near Lublin, from where there Aid will be transported to its destination. Every day, 2 trains with aid will arrive to Ukraine. I say to all those fighting for the freedom of Ukraine, if your wives and mothers come to our country, they will be taken care of. Poland will be safe second home for them. Poland's border guard reported on Sunday that all of the crossings at the Polish-Ukrainian border were functioning normally, and that since the beginning of war in Ukraine, almost 200,000 refugees received assistance in Poland.
After weeks of pressure and 4 days of bloody war against Ukraine, Germany stopped supporting Russia. Chancellor Olaf Scholz is for cutting Russia off from the SWIFT system. This was demanded by Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, who visited Berlin yesterday.
This is the position of Germany that Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki called for yesterday in Berlin. Together with the leaders of the European Union countries, you have agreed on an unprecedented package of sanctions. We will cut off Russian banks and state-owned companies from financing. We will prevent high-tech export to Russia. We are also focusing on oligarchs and their assets in the European Union. As announced by Olaf Scholz, Ukraine is to receive 500 Stinger anti-aircraft missile systems from Germany, as well as 1,000 anti-tank weapons. This decision is groundbreaking. So far, Germany has invoked the principle of non-exporting arms to war zones. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky responded positively to Germany's change in policy on this issue. Let's keep it up, Chancellor Scholz. Anti-war coalition in action. Speech in the Bundestag today, Chancellor Scholz said that his country will use all its strength to defend every square meter of the surface area of NATO countries. German defense spending on 2022 is expected to reach 100 billion euros, which means it will be increased to more than 2% of GDP, in the line of NATO's earlier demands. President Putin should not underestimate our determination to defend every square meter of our allies' territory. The SWIFT system blockade is expected to be the most severe sanction against Russia. European Commission Chair Ursula von der Leyen has also proposed crippling Russia's central bank's assets.
We are resolved to continue imposing massive costs on Russia. Costs that will further isolate Russia from the international financial system and our economies. In coordination with President Biden, President Macron, Bundeskanzler Scholz and Prime Minister Draghi, as well as Prime Minister Trudeau and Prime Minister Johnson, we considered a significant tightening of our international response.
Along with the European Union, sanctions on Russia are being imposed by other G7 countries.
And last night, the G7 agreed that we would cut access for Russia to the SWIFT banking system, that we would target the Russian central bank, that we'll be putting more sanctions on oligarchs and companies. And you can see the reaction in the international markets. You can see the damage already to the Russian economy.
We've got to do everything we can to change the heavy odds that Ukraine faces and to help them. And so that's why we're sending humanitarian supplies, we're sending financial supplies and military supplies. We need to make sure that we apply those much tougher economic sanctions, including SWIFT.
Condemning the aggression against Ukraine, Japanese authorities, like Western countries, have imposed 2 packages of sanctions on the Kremlin regime. These include freezing the assets of some Russian financial institutions, as well as controlling the export of modern technology. Canada and the United States have also declared their continuation in imposing sanctions. Yesterday, President Joe Biden decided to provide Ukraine with military aid worth a total of $600 million. In addition, the closure of airspace for Russian aircraft to most European countries have also announced Great Britain, Iceland, Norway, as well as Canada.
That's the news. Stay with us for more programs and tune in tomorrow, same time.